Welcome back to the Evolution of the Soul podcast and videos. This is Cheryl Arts from Willow Roots, and thank you for joining me once again. And in today's video, we're going to talk about the energy, the emotions, the trauma, basically, which all kind of sums up to energy of other people, of our family, of our friends, of our coworkers, of our clients, of our work. And it's the energy that we carry or we take on. And I believe that we do this mostly unconscious. Some of us do it a little bit more consciously. And we're going to talk about how that doesn't really serve us, but also how it doesn't serve the other person or the other people involved, and how it can negatively impact on both sides, and how we can release that energy or protect ourselves from that energy. And so this episode's called Care, Don't Carry. And this is something I learned very early on in my energy healing career. And I learned this from my teacher, Nick Balog. And, it was said quite often, care, don't carry. And we say it quite often. So that's why I'm doing this video. I've done another little video before, but this one's a little bit more extensive. And the reason for that is that I tell so many clients this, and I try to help them in this space because they tend to take on, especially family members. They'll take on the energy of family members, and it doesn't really serve either party. And so to give you an example, I get a lot of mothers who come in and their children are struggling with something, and they have the weight of their children's worlds on their shoulders. They are carrying it for them. And so when we do the energy work, I help them realize what they are carrying, and I help release that. So energy healers can help you release that energy. But I would love for you to learn some techniques to do this, and also not to get yourself in that situation. So a lot of parents do this. A lot of parents take on, and it comes in the form of worry. With our children and people we witness, our family members, it's really hard to be a witness to things that happen to our children, brothers, sisters, parents, and we kind of unconsciously or unconsciously go, hey, I'll take a bit of that, or I'll try to take all of it and hold it for you. And so a couple of things that does. First of all, like I said, when clients come in here, it makes them sick. We usually have enough of our own stuff going on that, we don't need any more. And so it usually makes them sick in one way or another. It makes them heavy, makes them not feel well, makes them tired. And, it could give them anxiety, depression, and ultimately could lead to dis-ease in some form. So it really doesn't serve us to take on the energy of someone else. Or, for example, work. So many people bring home work with them. They bring home the emotions around it or the thoughts around it. And it's hard sometimes to make that break. Turn that off, work stays here, and move forward. And so, I'm going to give you some techniques around that. And I'll also share, when we're talking about people that we're taking energy from, that we're absorbing their energy, whether it's their trauma or their hard times and their suffering that we take on, it doesn't help them. And the reason it doesn't help them, it may help them in the short term, but in the long term, if someone needs to make some change in some fashion, say they really need to change their job. The writing's on the wall, they're really not happy, and it's coming to this breaking point. And as a mother, if I take that on for my son, take on a piece of it, he'll go, oh, you know what? I can make it another year, and trudge along, trudge along, trudge along. If I let him stay in that energy, feel the feels, feel that energy, really kind of sit through that, and it may be uncomfortable, and it may be uncomfortable for me to witness, but may come to that decision sooner. may hit that space where needs to make a job change, needs to eat healthier, needs to quit drinking, quit smoking, dot, 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 right? And so when we take those pieces from other people, there's a short-term gain, but in the long term, it doesn't really help either of us. So again, it makes the person who takes it on sick. It doesn't bode well for their mental health in many different ways, and you're only helping them for a short period of time. Unless you're able to transmute that energy. So if you're able to transmute that energy, that's a different story. But it really needs to come from the person who is suffering. It really needs to come from that family member, that client. And so I see clients all the time. And one of the kind of, I guess, dangers in the healing world for those of us who are energy healers, we need to be very careful in this space because most of us are empaths. We feel the feels, we feel what the other people are feeling. We can hear the thoughts and different things. And so if I take on even an ounce of every client, I would be so, so sick. And so for me, I need to have that protection around me to make sure that I can serve them while they're in front of me. I can help. And so I have the tools to help transmute that energy, which is really beautiful. But if I continue after that person is left to think about their problems and think about their situation, then I am taking on their energy. And that is going to weigh me down. And if you think about the number of clients that I would see even through a day or through a week, I wouldn't be able to do my work very much longer. Right. And so we need to be very careful. So a couple things we can do. And here's the thing. Here's one of the first things we need to do is we need to be a witness. So instead of getting enmeshed and entangled and like drawn right up into someone else's life or their circumstances, we need to take a step back, be an observer, and witness. And that is a really powerful, sacred space to hold. So we can hold space for people and be a witness and see and hear and be a listener to what is happening. So that's the first piece. The next piece is that we need to disconnect in some form. And so I really love alchemical healing. When I see a client, that's one of the 4 rules that we have is that we disconnect. We disconnect. And so after someone has visited or somebody's been here, or say a family member has come over and we talk all this and there's some hard stuff, we can disconnect from that. To a certain extent, if it's your children or, there's always that cord, there's always that connection, but we can disconnect from that hard conversation that I don't keep ruminating in it and I don't get entangled and enmeshed in it. So that's one of the pieces. And so that works for work too. And so, share this with clients that, there's got to be some mechanism where you leave it at the door. So as you've worked your day and it wasn't a super awesome day, imagine you're going through the door and you're kind of leaving that behind. Or as soon as you get in your vehicle, that's a shifting point. It shuts off. Or you have a shower when you get home and you rinse all that stuff off from the day and it really just drains all that into the drain and it leaves you. Right. So there needs to be some form of disconnection. So trust in that process and how that might look for you. And that's a really powerful way not to continue to carry on. And so again, being a witness, disconnecting. The other piece is if you do find yourself in a circumstance where you have picked up on energy, we need to let it go. You need to find a way to let it go. And there's many different ways to let it go. For instance, the shower. So showering with intention, maybe it's smudging. You bring out some sage or some cedar, smudge your body, maybe smudge the room that you had this conversation in or your work environment, smudging that. Trees are very powerful healers. And so I've worked with trees to help release energy, especially some high energy. And so it's about asking permission of the tree, placing your hands on the tree, and it'll be really quick. They'll pull this energy out. And what we give in reciprocation is some gratitude and some love back to the tree. Writing it out, we need to find a mechanism to let it go. If it's a little tricky, let go. Again, like I mentioned earlier in this video, in this audio, that go see someone, go see an energy healer to help move that energy. Sometimes we need, especially if we've been carrying it for a period, like a long period of time. So we do need to let that go. The other piece is we can get in front of this, or as we're listening to that person, we always, I think it's human nature, we want to do something. And I think that's why people carry it or take it on, is that we want to do something. We feel a little helpless. The circumstances, we can't really do anything. So energetically, we take it on, which is, again, not healthy. So one of the ways around that, and I really love this, is the power of prayer or blessings or what you want to call it. So prayers may trigger some people, but prayer is super powerful. Our thoughts are super powerful. I talk about this all the time, that we are creator beings. So we can send prayers for their healing, or that their circumstances will change, that light will come in, or the finances will find them, or they'll be abundant in love, or whatever is needed in that circumstance. So we can do prayers. We can also do blessings. And so blessings is a Louise Hay thing that I super love. She talks about it in a few of her books, and I can't recall the one book in particular. It's quite old that she wrote, but she talked about her mornings and how she would send a blessing out to everything that she was going to connect with that day. And even if she wasn't going to connect, maybe she sent it out to family members, and just seeing a beautiful light around them, that they were going to have an amazing day. She would send it around her vehicles. And so in terms of someone that is on your mind, that you super care about, and that you have concerns around, maybe every morning just sending light and love and prayers that they'll find their healing, or they'll get onto their path, or they'll quit that job, or whatever is needed, that the right guidance and support will come in. Right. And so offering that kind of in front of it or in the midst of it is super, super powerful. And I know some of us have that analytical mind that, we need that quantitative, proof that actually happens. And I have proof, but it's more of, an energetic proof, and in a feeling and a knowing of the impact. And so it's very, very powerful. Even people who have near-death experiences talk about the power of prayer. So when they're kind of on the other side, they're out of their body, they're in the light, they know they can feel and sense the prayers. That's been documented. So it's super, super powerful, whatever you want to call it, positive thoughts, positive energy, healing thoughts. Whatever that may be, that is a way to offer something to somebody in need that your heart just goes out to without taking on their energy. And as I mentioned too, that a lot of us in this space, if you're watching this video, it's more likely than not that you're likely an empath, and you can feel the feelings. That's why you want to do something. You can feel their energy, feel the need. And so you may need to protect your energy. Right? If you have these encounters, if you're going into work, or that you're going to be talking to a certain family member or a friend that is in a certain situation, that we may need to put a bubble around our energy. You may need to wear something like obsidian or shungite, a crystal that helps protect your energy. So some form of energetic protection that allows you to be an observer, allows you to be a witness, allows you to listen without absorbing. So you can be that observer, kind of pull yourself out, be that observer without taking it on. So if you need that, that's another way to offer help in this space, but care and not carry it. And so there's many different forms of protection. So trust, what resonates with you. I'll likely do a video sometime about protection. I know I have some pay videos about energy and protection. Super, super powerful, especially as we start to navigate that empathetic energy and navigating, this new space, this evolution. And so sometimes we hit different places as we open ourselves up to our intuition and to our gifts, protection is a powerful thing, right? And it's difficult to see and feel someone who's in pain or suffering. Again, not serving them if we take it on, but it can serve us if we can send them love, blessings, healing thoughts, prayers, or help them transmute that energy. And so one of the last things I was going to talk about too, I met children that do this in their family. They're little absorbers. And so just be mindful of people that are that kind of person that will take on the energy. And so for little kids, it's a little harder for them to understand. But I had a client who came in, and the way we were able to talk about it was, having a backpack. And so I gave him the tool that when he starts to feel heavy, that he can take off his backpack and go over to a tree and dump it out. And I've had the conversation like that. This is not your stuff. You don't need to put it on your back. But if you feel like it's in you're carrying a lot, this is what we can do. And so kind of doing these, analogies or something that can relate to them that can help them in this space. And so if you're an adult too, this might be helpful if you feel, because we tend to carry everything, like a lot of weight on our shoulders and our back, can, really feel like we're carrying the weight of the world or carrying someone on our back. And so maybe even just that thought, getting some deep breaths and taking off that backpack and dropping it. So even if, you want to close your eyes at the moment, maybe we don't even know how much we're carrying at the moment. So if you just want to close your eyes, take a couple deep breaths in, and just check into your shoulders, check into your back, and see if there's anything there. Maybe you'll get a visual, or maybe you'll kind of feel it, or maybe you'll just know. And so just if you sense something there, maybe see if you can just kind of take it off and wiggle it off and invite it to drop down into earth. We always give it a place to go. We give it with a prayer of transformation into its highest good. And so just letting go. And in your mind, I just let this go. I let go of anything that's not serving me, that's not mine. We're just going to let it go to earth, right? I don't really like return to sender or return to source is one of the better ways I like to say. I don't like to return to sender because I don't want to, necessarily give it back to them. So I would often say return to source, or I'm giving it to earth. I'm giving it a place to go. We got to give things a place to go. Super important. Otherwise, it kind of sticks around. So it either sticks around for us or it sticks around for them. And so I hope this video is helpful. Hopefully, there's a couple nuggets in there that can help you in this space if you maybe don't even realize that you were doing that. And so by doing that quick little check-in, and so just if we've taken that energy off, just invite for a moment, we're going to take some breaths in. I'm just going to make sure you're full from releasing. Anytime we release, we need to refill. So just invite that receiving. So I'm just going to send a little energy just to fill ourselves back up. And we can also do this by just, breathing in the energy of the sun, like breathing it into the heart, drawing it in through the crown. That's a great way to fill up our energy fields and our energy bodies. And so again, I hope this was helpful. I hope that in the future, when we help people, we can do it with love and compassion and kindness, but we don't absorb all of that. We can do all of that in the spaces that I've offered by being a sacred observer. One of the most sacred thing is to be an observer, is be there for people, but not, to truly be there for them, we need to be as healthy as possible too. So please keep that in mind, keep these tools in mind, and I hope they help you. So thank you. Take care. See you soon.